and record it. So welcome to the preliminary round for the 17th annual Gillespie Business Plan Competition hosted by the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the University of Mississippi. Today we have 4 judges who are going to judge 5 preliminary teams. The first judge is Ms. Scotty Carter-Dewey. She is the Vice President of People and Culture and the second employee at Next Gear Solutions, an insurtech startup headquartered here in Oxford that now has over 250 employees in 3 countries and serves many of the nation's largest property insurance companies along with major restoration contractors. Scotty's job at Next Gear has evolved over the years, and she now focuses on ensuring employees are engaged, prepared, supported to do their work at Next Gear. She earned her bachelor's from Ole Miss in 2004 and went on to receive her master's before returning to Oxford. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Mr. Lit Harris is the managing partner of Harrison Investment Partnership. He's a 1962 graduate of the University of Mississippi with a BBA in marketing and management. He's retired president and CEO of Southwest Management and Marketing Company in Houston, a residential property management concern. He sold his company and retired in 2004 and currently serves as managing partner of the Harris Investment Partnership, specializing in venture capital investments, including multifamily real estate, senior housing developments, drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers, and other projects. Welcome, Mr. Harris.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Miss Joyce Freeland is a longtime friend of the center and a longtime Oxfordian who now lives in Atlanta. Joyce is a transactional technology lawyer, formerly in-house counsel for a global technology startup. She has deep ties to Mississippi, but she presently lives in Atlanta. Welcome, Joyce. Good to see you, and thanks for coming back.
It's good to see all of y'all.
Mr. Jason Simmons is an innovative entrepreneur behind Dead Soxy. Dead Soxy is a Dallas-based lifestyle brand that makes premium socks designed for the hustle. Oh, that's a good line. In the last 6 years, they've sold over 800,000 pairs of socks and have been featured in GQ, Esquire, Men's Health, and Forbes, as well as being named a top 5 startup in the DFW for 3 consecutive years and the #1 startup in DFW in 2019. Congratulations and thank you for coming, Mr. Simmons. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is watch a video from Muse. Muse's video ended up a little long, so we're going to play the first 6 minutes and then I'll stop. And we've invited the team to address anything that gets left out in Q&A. So when the judges kind of come to that point, if you wanted to just touch base on stuff that they might have missed. So there's always going to be the challenge of not sharing the wrong screen and also playing sound. So bear with me while I get this to work. There it is.
All right, we are recording. Good.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for coming here today. Me and my team are here to present a revolutionary new way to listen to live music during the COVID-19 pandemic. We've all been there. We all miss concerts. I know I certainly do. Being there with your friends, the ambiance, the music, the improv. I miss my favorite artists and celebrities. I really do. So what have we done? Our main man, CEO Alec Pointer, has come up with a groundbreaking technology, Muse live music streaming.
All right, so first let's dive into our strategy. We will create a startup company through an application known as Muse that will address the increasing demand for live music performances as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The application's initial function will be to provide users with an easy-to-use platform for listening to live music performances from the comfort of their own home. Shortly after launching the application, we will begin expanding our functionality to allow users themselves to live stream music for others. Now, a little background about ourselves. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused tons of industries to shut down. Specifically, the live music industry was one of the first to shut down. Now, there are current and future capacity limitations in place as a result of the pandemic. And currently, with most states having these capacities set, even 80% capacity will not be enough for many venues to even be profitable. Additionally, the industry expects major tours to be rerouted to the year 2022. Now, some opportunities that we've identified are that while in quarantine, the average adult increased their music listening by 40%, with millennials increasing their listening by 58%, and even baby boomers increasing their listening by 25%. The music streaming market is projected to grow by $7.47 billion US in the coming years at a compounded annual growth rate of 19% between the years 2020 and 2024.
So now transitioning to our marketing strategy for this product. So first, we're going to partner with a digital music marketing firm to help get the word out about our app. We're going to have a heavy emphasis on social media to promote our app. And with that, we will rely on influencers because they have the power to engage a large audience. We're also going to debut a demo video that features the app and basically what it has to offer. It's going to be just a short 30 seconds, very similar to a commercial, and it will demonstrate what we do and why we're doing it. Next, we're also going to rely on using a Google search engine, not just the traditional methods of social media or at the App Store. And lastly, we're going to have a app launch party, which can lure maybe a big name artist and that can draw attention to possible consumers. And then kind of going into the risk factors associated with starting this business. So product risk. Will consumers enjoy and want to watch live concerts on mobile devices, given that maybe they've experienced live concerts in a normal setting before? There's also market risk, as COVID is lessening over the last few months and we kind of get back to normal in our society. Will consumers still desire a virtual product when concerts are just full-fledged normal? There's also a competitive risk. So if our company is successful, will businesses try to copy our model and undercut us, like a Spotify or an Apple Music? And lastly, there's also strategic risk involved. And basically, will we be able to demonstrate what our product does and if it is useful for consumers very clearly compared to an Apple Music or Spotify?
So now we're going to get into the finances of how we're going to make this feasible and operate as a, get our cash flows, how we're going to operate as a business. So we'll have our initial Muse entry level, and that is going to be the free version for the beta version, very similar to how Spotify has their free version versus Spotify Premium. So it'll allow access to the platform. It will allow limited functionality. You'll be able to listen to some of the celebrities and not some of the celebrities. That is mostly just to generate market. It's mostly just to generate user integration onto the platform. We want to be able to have them come onto our platform, see how we deal with the connectivity issues and how we assess the data and how we can bring that analysis to further the bug fixes and other minor improvements. Getting into the money portions, we'll start with a $5.99 subscription per month for Muse entry, and this will allow you to enter DJ mode. This will allow you to listen to live streaming from select celebrities and influencers, and it'll also allow you to live stream to your friends, so you can have a listen party virtually from the safety and comfort of your own home. Going to the next level, we get to Muse Plus. So this will allow you to subscribe to any artist that is on the platform, any influencer, celebrity that you desire that is currently hosting on the platform. So if your favorite man, Drake, is driving down Boulevard Avenue Hollywood Avenue, and they're listening to their favorite playlist in their car, you can listen along right with them. And finally, we get to our content. So virtual.
All right, so that was 6 minutes. So judges, go ahead and fire away.
I got a question.
Sure.
Have you considered how much it's going to cost to develop the application? I didn't hear much talk about finances and break-even points and things like that. And I happen to know tech is quite expensive to develop. Just would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay.
So with that, it was mostly speculative, I would say. We realized that it's going to be fairly expensive, but seeing as how this is a startup and we're going to be relying on venture capital, most likely, I would estimate that it's probably going to be somewhere in the 1 to 2 million range at the end of the day, like after we've gone through, refined the product, developed everything, all the facets of it. That's our estimate, but again, it's purely speculative. So that was kind of our mindset. We didn't really have a concrete number on that. It was more an afterthought because our revenue would make up for it in the long run. So
Got it. Thank you.
Is
What
there
are your-
someone on,
Go ahead.
sorry, is there someone on your team that has an engineering background, somebody that's a computer science major or similar?
I'm not sure. I don't believe so. But correct me if I'm wrong, Hunt or Preston.
As far as I'm aware of, we do not.
What's your plan for finding your sort of chief engineers, your main, programmers? You have a plan for that?
I think we would mostly not outsource, but work through a firm of some kind that would have those kinds of people, because obviously we don't have them in-house at the moment. So that would be something that we would have to work through another company for and probably recruit. So.
Okay.
Is there going to be a video component to this, or is it just purely a stream of music, audio?
So there would be a video component for the concerts. So if it was a live concert by any given celebrity / artist, you would be able to see whatever they present. So whether they're in their room or at home, whatever they are putting on the screen, it's essentially like a Zoom call kind of.
Right.
But we think it'll be a little more like lively. Like they'll probably be at like a venue or something, or in the studio or something like that. So you'll get to actually see them while listening from your own home.
Right.
So these performances are all going to be live, right? I mean, the artists that you're going to be lining up, they're all going to be performing live. So my question is, how are you going to, I mean, is this going to be like a 24-hour service, or how are you going to control that?
So we would most likely set up time slots, that kind of thing, based on whatever the artist desires. So let's say they want to do it at 8 o'clock Pacific or something. We would basically have a schedule where we would like allot time. So like people wouldn't be doing concerts at like 4 a.m. It would also be regional. I'm sure we would just do it based on the location. So if it did go global, it would be in the US. We would have our own schedule, and they would go through us first, and we would set up those time blocks.
Are you planning to pay the artists for doing this?
Yes, they will get a percentage of the total revenue made from the concert. Seeing as the concert, you pay for the tickets, you either have the subscription or you can just pay for a ticket. So they would get a percent of that revenue.
Okay.
So as you pointed out in your presentation, the music app scene is fairly crowded. Music streaming is fairly crowded as a market. How do you plan to get in front of your customers? What's your go-to-market plan?
Which was it? Hunt, did you talk about that, or one of y'all? That's not really my area of expertise, was the marketing.
Oh, so the marketing strategy, I think we talked about it before, having a launch party and other aspects. It's going to be hard to break over and substitute for Spotify or Apple Music. So I think it's kind of becoming a complement to those at first with the live music, and then from there kind of working as that.
Anybody, one more?
Yes, I'd like to ask something.
Sure.
I don't know whether it was in your business plan. I don't, and maybe it was in the end that was cut off, but I think that y'all talked about in your business plan that live music venues are going to change in the interim, that they're not going to be able to have full capacity. Is that an issue y'all have addressed and it just got cut off?
I believe, I'm sorry, can you repeat that question one more time?
Okay, so we know that concerts are coming back, but we also know that people are going to social distance to some degree. So that traditional market is going to change, which is part of what you're competing against, and it's in favor of your service, but you're not, have y'all thought about that?
Have we thought about how we're going to capitalize on that, or just the concept that you're saying that we're, because we highlighted that, I think in the portion of the video that got played, I think we said that 80% for live concerts, it's still not profitable. And so we're going to be competing on that front while the concerts are slowly transitioning back in. And by the time they get to full capacity, and we think in order to make our service not irrelevant, we're going to capitalize on our live music streaming by users, where they can have listening parties. So we're going to slowly transition our platform at that point away from the live music. We'll still keep it, but we're just going to transition into other components later on.
All right, let me time it out there. Thank you guys very much. And we're going to move on to HoopAtlanta. Assuming I can find it. Hang on, I didn't share the audio.
What's up, guys? I'm Jordan Whiten with HoopAtlanta LLC. I'm a non-traditional student here at the University of Mississippi. During my original stint here at Ole Miss, I was a habitual bench rider on the Ole Miss basketball team. And as I grew up and older into my professional career, I never lost that passion for the game of basketball. That led me to create HoopAtlanta, where what we do is we provide great basketball experiences for ballers here in the Atlanta area, and soon a lot of other places too.
But Jordan, what's the problem with basketball? There's basketball everywhere. Yeah, well, kind of. So right now your two options, if you want to play short term, your options are either go to the park with some friends, hope people are up there that know how to play basketball, or hope there's enough people up there, or go to an LA Fitness where you never know how long you're going to have to wait, and you never know if enough people are even going to be up there to play. So the second option is to pay $1,000 to enter a team into an adult men's league. And that's no fun either. That price tag is way too high. And I don't necessarily want to commit to every Tuesday night for 10 weeks. I just want to play when I want to play. And that's where HoopAtlanta comes in. Low price tag, by yourself, you play when you want to play. No long-term commitment.
And for us, this isn't just an idea anymore. We're out here doing it. We established our LLC last year, and since October, we've been running events steadily here in the Atlanta market every single week. Last month, we had our largest month of revenue, bringing in almost $10,000 in the Atlanta and Charlotte markets combined. And as the months go forward, we're only planning on growing that number, and especially growing it with our new markets emerging. So next, how do we even host these events? So first, what I did last year, I went and bought a set of jerseys. From there, I started reaching out to gyms here in the Atlanta area saying, hey, let me rent your space, here's my idea. And my idea, we want to host organized pickup events. So that includes refs, jerseys, stats, music, the whole thing, a real basketball game-like experience for anybody that wants to participate. From there, we got a gym in Lawrenceville, Georgia called Dash Performance to bite on. And from there, we started hosting events. The way I advertised these events was first through my close personal friends in the basketball community, and then through Instagram, as we had the opportunity to build up content to go out and market to these folks. Here in the city of Atlanta over the past couple of months, the brand has grown exponentially. Instagram, we're up to almost 3,000 followers. We're selling out about 4 sessions a week here in Atlanta and 3 sessions a week in the Charlotte market. And here over the next month, we're looking to be able to sell out 5 to 6 sessions a week just here in the Atlanta market.
We out here, we just got done at the HoopAtlanta session up here in Gainesville. My guy.
What's going on? What's going on? HoopAtlanta, y'all see it on the jersey. Best runs ever in Atlanta.
So the next question might be, how are we going to make money from this? So what we've done is we've set up www.hoopatlanta.com on Shopify's network. From there, we've set up all of our events and our location and time and put it on there for signups. All it costs to sign up for one of our sessions is $20. $20 to have one of the best basketball experiences here in the Atlanta market, and a lot of people have flocked to it. We sell out all of our events, and what Shopify does, it gives us a full roster of the 15 people that signed up so that when we get to the event, we know exactly who's gonna be there and we're ready to go. So yeah, now that we've had success here in the Atlanta market, we thought, hey, why can't we just copy and paste our plan into other markets across the US? In January, we started our first exterior market from Atlanta in Hoop Charlotte, which has been extremely successful thus far. Next month, we have Hoop Nashville going up in Nashville, Tennessee. And the next month after that, we have Hoop Texas, which will be launching in Houston, Texas. In September this year, we have plans for Hoop Colorado, which will be based in Denver, Colorado. And from there, I mean, expansion is kind of whatever we want to make it. We want to make sure that we're building a strong foundation in each of these markets and providing great basketball experiences for the Hoopers in all these cities.
But yeah, we're not just selling a game of basketball. We're selling a whole experience, okay? And players are recognizing that. We're having college players, we're having pros, overseas pros. We've had NBA players come, we've had WNBA players come, and they're recognizing that this is a great time and different from all the other basketball organizations that they've ever been a part of. And when players have fun and they realize that we're putting the game first, they're gonna come back. And if we keep our mindset strong on the game of basketball and not just trying to make a quick buck, I think we're gonna be very successful in the long term. Thank you.
Mr. Whiten's here, should be good to go.
Hey y'all, how are y'all doing? Thank you.
Could you elaborate a little more on your competition for this particular market?
Yes, sir. So my competition here in the Atlanta market, from what we did, our, I guess, business model was a new model, and something where our main competitors were your LA Fitness, like gyms, and your Atlanta Sport and Social, which is a big, I guess, adult rec league that hosts season-long events opposed to individual events. So we were a new model of just doing one-off pickup games, but since we have started, we've had two main competitors come into the market, Hoop Lifestyle and the 1891 Club here in Atlanta. Those two have not gotten off the ground quite as much. I know Hoop Lifestyle has ran only 2 events thus far, and 1891 has run less than 10. I don't know the exact number, but it's something that I feel that we established our brand in the market first and kind of the brand that people recognize. So we've had a very brand loyal consumer and haven't faced too much trouble from these competitors.
What is your budget for going into a new market like Houston, for example, or Denver?
So my budget, so I can actually talk specifically with Houston. So the main things that we need to do are buy a set of jerseys, which we have a relationship with DSN Sports. That set of jerseys is going to cost us $850 for those 18 jerseys. So we buy those to make sure that, and we spend a little bit more on those jerseys because we want the premium branding. We want them to look nice because we know that those jerseys are going to carry us as we grow. So we have $850 that are for that jersey. For gym usage, we like to try to keep it at $100 or lower per hour. So $100 or lower is where we try to look for gym usage, and we try to commit to a full month to go ahead and start. So when we started Charlotte, what we did, we partnered with Carolina Courts in Concord, North Carolina, and we rented out every Tuesday night for 5 weeks. That way we were already good to go, and that cost us $500, which is on the high end of the spectrum. I try to get the range around the 65 to 75 an hour, but to get started in a new market, it was good.
Okay, thank you.
For sure, thank you.
As you scale the business to other cities, it might seem like investing in a mobile application, a mobile consumer communication tool should probably be on your radar. Have you given that any thought?
For sure. And definitely, I think more so, are you speaking specifically about like an app or something like that?
Yeah, definitely an app. Yep.
So my viewpoint from just our perspective is that I think apps, they take a lot to be downloaded. I think that nobody wants to have 100 apps on their phone. And I like the idea of an app in the future, but I do like the accessibility of just being able to type in HoopAtlanta.com and just pressing yes and paying with Apple Pay. So I think an app would be something to explore, like you said, if we become a huge national brand. But right now, I think we are able to get more players just from being able to type in HoopAtlanta.com, opposed to having to download an entire app. But like you said, for people that are going to different markets and traveling and things like that, an app would be a good idea.
I got a follow-up question.
Okay.
How are you determining which new markets you want to enter?
So that's kind of been as our relationships, as my personal relationships have been. So I have some friends in each of these markets that they've seen what we've been doing in Atlanta and are wanting to build up. And kind of like I spoke to earlier with our competition, the reason the competition has not hurt us so badly is because we were first to market. We were first to market with this idea. And now that people are trying to launch the idea, they're basically known as, for lack of a better way, you're copying HoopAtlanta. And the way I feel is that if we go into a market first, we can build that same brand presence. So for me, I have relationships in Charlotte with Justin Petty and Tyler Hamilton, who will be running the show up there for me. And the Nashville market, it's Drew Mills and Jack Gentry who are running that market. In Houston, we have Josh Podlin and Wyatt Huff. And in Denver, we have Colin Kerr, all of which have basketball backgrounds, have connections with the basketball community in their city. So it's just choosing the right two head points for each of these markets. And like for me, I want to go into Orlando badly. I think Orlando has a huge basketball community, but I don't have any connections that I trust with that market. So we haven't expanded into that market yet.
Thank you.
For sure. Thank you.
Are those city leads that you talked about, are they your employees, or are they contracted? How are you compensating those?
The city lead, the other city leads. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the way that we've done that is that I've basically done it as like a franchise fee. So what they've done is I have a franchise fee, and they are fronting all the costs for those new market. Like I spoke to before, the initial gym costs, the initial ref costs, and the initial jersey costs. So they're paying for that. Plus they're paying the franchise fee up top. On top of that, they are keeping 75% of revenue from their markets. 25% of revenue goes back to HoopAtlanta LLC, I guess specifically to grow the business, while they're able to keep 75% of the revenue. So that way they have a little bit at stake as well, and they're not just kind of getting paid hourly. The more you grow your market, the more you can earn.
All right, awesome sauce. So let me pause it there. Thank you, Mr. Whiten.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to well, Mr. Patel can help me pronounce it. Voitor Rentals.
Yeah, my truck's not cranking up. I'm gonna be pretty late to work.
Voiture will be the first ever car rental service that helps you make money. Yes, you. At Voiture, we're looking for people who would want to use our cars for food delivery apps. It is statistically proven that if you use your own cars for these food delivery apps, that your car is going to have the wear and tear and mileage that will overall devalue your own car, and it's more beneficial for you to use a rental car. It would also be beneficial because you do not have to worry about maintenance, insurance, or anything wrong with the car, as we make sure the car is up and running, and we'll provide you a new car, so hopefully there will be no problems with using our cars. So you tell me, is a car a liability or is it an asset? Think about it. Well, it's a liability just because we all know that once you roll off the lot with your brand new car or your used car, it will decrease in value up to 15 to 20%. Now, besides from that, every year the car depreciates 15 to 20% on top of that. So the first year you get the car, it will be almost depreciated 30% of its value. Now, today we're going to be making it an asset. So we want to make it an asset by finding these drivers to rent out these cars weekly for around 125 bucks. Now each car will have around 2 drivers, and they will work with each other to make a schedule on when each driver will be using the car. Hey there, future me here. One thing I didn't mention was that our target audience would be people that are trying to drive for Uber Eats, Postmates, or any of the delivery apps. That way we know as a company that they're making money using these apps to rent out the car. So let's talk about financials. One car has 2 drivers, and they would be paying from $100 to $125 per week. In 1 week, the car will have a revenue of $250. Now, if we multiply that by 4, because that's how many weeks are in a month, monthly you'll be making $1,000 from one car. There are other ways to make money on that car as well, by putting advertisements in the front and sides of the car. So those car advertisements usually go for around 50 to $100 on each car. It will be a vinyl wrap. And so with 3 sides on the car, we can estimate $150 from advertisements on the car. So during the month, we can also expect the car having its own expenses. So we will be financing this car with 0% APR, which a lot of dealerships do nowadays for used or new cars. And we will be basically paying a monthly payment of around $200. And on top of that, we will have a expense of $150 for insurance costs that will help provide insurance for other drivers. It will also be enrolled in a Safe Drivers program with GPS. So as you can see, the company will itself make $800 a month. Hey there, future me again. I just wanted to say that since each car will be making around $800 per car, obviously we can't make money from one car in each city. We would have fleets of 10 to 15 cars, maybe even 20. And that way each city will be making almost $100,000 in revenue. So from there we would basically expand to each major city that we can provide. Now that you guys know what makes us so different, what makes us so special is that we have public data that can help us coordinate with our drivers on what areas and time work the best on making the most deliveries they can. One last thing that I like to say is that we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And at Voyager, we're here to help others.
Should be unmuted and ready to go.
Yep.
I got a question. Scotty can probably speak a little bit better to this with her background, but most car rental companies have an age minimum, and I think it's 25. And there's probably some insurance ramifications and guidelines around that. So if you could just speak to kind of how you've thought through that, that'd be great.
So nowadays there are so many different insurance companies with a lot of like minimum age requirements. So they're different. I went through different companies and tried to find which one has a minimum age requirement, and 18 was the minimum that I found. State Farm has a certain policy that if it's under if it's under a Safe Drivers program, then it can qualify for anyone that's under 21. And that's where I found the $150 for premium that would cover with GPS for the Safe Drivers program.
And I could totally be wrong here, but the requirements for an actual rental car agency seem like they may be a little different than that. So building a business and monetizing that, it sounded a little bit like you were maybe looking at more direct opportunities for insurance. I could be wrong though.
Yeah, so I was looking at different rental companies. They use commercial insurance. And for individual cars that I would do, if it's under 10 cars, there's no need for commercial insurance because it'll be there's not enough cars and it'll be more expensive that way. For long term, if we do move on to different cities with multiple cars, more than 10, it's definitely worth getting the commercial insurance.
Got it. Thank you.
This food delivery business is very, very competitive, and it's changing all the time because it was huge during the COVID crisis, but it's dwindling down now because people can go back and eat in restaurants and things like this. My question is, how are you going to be, who is responsible for lining up the food companies or the restaurants that are going to be participating in this delivery program when you're competing with people, huge corporations are in this already, and you're sort of going to be a Johnny come lately. And I'm just wondering how you're going to go about doing this.
Okay, so basically we would provide cars for like our target person, the person that we want to rent the car to is going to be people that want to use apps like Uber Eats, Postmates to deliver, right? So we would just try to help them figure out what areas work the best. And if you work on apps in major cities, you would constantly keep getting deliveries ready to go and drop off. So the part in where we have to find different restaurants and food places to pick up from, we don't have to find that. It would all be through the apps.
It'd be through the, you're leaving that up to the individual drivers, the people that are renting these cars for $125 a week. You're leaving that up to them to work out.
Right, yeah, it would be through the apps, Postmates, Uber Eats, and Grubhub.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, if someone is delivering for Uber Eats right now and they're using their own car, they basically would stop using their car and start using yours?
In long term, it would be better to use our cars. So you would, like I said, it would devalue your car. For people that don't have cars, it would be great to use our cars since we are going to be the cheapest as possible, but make a profit for the company as well. Yeah.
How are you gonna find those drivers? How are you gonna advertise your cars to those drivers?
Right. So I've already put up job listings on Facebook job lists, and then I shared it to a bunch of groups on Facebook for Ole Miss students, and I found 4 students that are ready to start tomorrow to drive for their car, and they already, I know 2 of them already have cars, but their cars are older, so they don't want to use their cars, and that way, yeah, it would mostly be through Craigslist, Facebook, and then social media branding.
Are you going to have, what kind of contract are you going to have those drivers sign? Have you thought about that?
No, not yet. I was hoping to get in contact with the Ole Miss Law School to help out build a contract on what I would need.
Mm-hmm. That would be a good idea, especially when it comes to liability. You know, they're driving your asset, so you need to make sure you're protecting it.
Mm-hmm.
One more.
And just to elaborate on that a little bit, the math, the financials of your business, it assumes that these people are going to be locked into long-term contracts, right? It assumes that there's going to be no churn, no give and take there, and they're going to want it every time the opportunity is presented. So you really do need to have some type of legal arrangement with them.
Yeah, one thing I found out was that in bigger cities, a lot of people do rent out cars to use for these delivery services. And one of the main competitors would have been Hertz, and they rent out a car for $250 a week. And that, what's it called? From our standpoint, we try to minimalize it as we can for the money portion of how much it would cost a week. So that's where we would have 2 drivers driving the car, picking up and then dropping it off in the location.
All right, let me let it time it there. Thank you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you.
Get started on Rolling Thunder. share it.
Hello, my name is Tristan Daly, and I'm representing Rolling Thunder today. Our goal is to make wheelchairs more accessible and therapeutically minded for those with spinal cord injuries as well as the elderly. Many issues arise with wheelchairs. When you look at how they are operated, it's not a natural motion. This issue of biomechanics affects the elderly especially. The push rim on the wheelchair is far too often very narrow to grip. Therefore, the elders using these wheelchairs result gripping the wheel itself, which is highly unsanitary. Additionally, over time, the poor biomechanics associated with operation cause joint degradation of the wrists and shoulder joints due to the joint impingement. There's also a significant need in the sector of traumatic spinal cord injuries, also known as SCIs, for rehabilitative tools. When a person is required to be in an electric wheelchair, it causes their muscles to atrophy further and increases the recovery and rehabilitation time. Our main target populations are the elderly and individuals with SCIs. However, there are a number of other neuromuscular diseases which could benefit from the therapeutic aspects of our device. To clarify, we're focused on injuries below the C6 vertebrae in the neck. Injuries more severe than this usually do not allow for rehabilitation of the arms. These individuals make up approximately 87% of all cases of SCI. As for the elderly population, it is expected to grow by 22% by 2050 and is only expected to increase. As a result of overall growth in population, the elderly population specifically, and a large portion of society who experience traumatic SCIs or other disabilities, the annual growth rate of the global wheelchair market is expected to reach a value of $8 billion by 2026. Our main goal is to alter the biomechanics of operating the wheelchair. By doing this, we circumvent issues of arthritis and joint impingement. Our design also decreases the force required to push the wheelchair by a factor of 3. This means you only need 1/3 of the strength to operate the wheelchair. Alterations in the biomechanical movement also allow for the use of stronger muscle groups in the back and chest, opposed to just the upper arms and some muscles of the upper body. The modularity and ease of attachment of our device was also a key component in the design process. Since it can fit on any wheelchair as an aftermarket attachment, it will be very cost effective to the patient in the long run by decreasing overuse injuries and decreasing muscle atrophy. As shown in the video, our design changes the awkward movement to a linear push and pull movement on an ergonomic grip, which is much more natural. This mitigates all contact with the wheel itself and increases the number of muscle groups in action. The main gearbox will attach to the arm of the chair after removing the stock arm cushion, which is only attached by hex screws. The gear, which will receive a direct input from the grips, known as the driving gear, is located in this gearbox. The driven gear is a sprocket which is attached to the wheel by a hub and it is all driven by a chain. This design remediates all issues of poor biomechanics and makes the wheelchair much easier to self-propel by the gear ratio. It is highly similar in principle to a bicycle, but allows for linear input opposed to rotational input. We plan to target nursing homes and elderly rehab centers primarily, but since it is an aftermarket attachment, anyone can buy it. We would have sales representatives visit nursing homes, physicians, and physical therapists with a demo wheelchair so that they could see its function as well as its ease of attachment. We would put out ads to attract individuals who may benefit from the device also. We expect elderly care facilities to be early adopters and create traction in the market. Since we plan to keep our price very low relative to our competitors, it could be bought for multiple residents. And even after rehabilitation, the individual can buy one for themselves to increase comfortability. As mentioned, we intend to keep our costs and prices as low as possible and sell direct to consumer from a website or retail outlet. Nursing homes would be able to order the device in bulk, and since it is an aftermarket attachment, insurance would never be involved. We want our device to be affordable and have a greater reach to help people. By making it direct to consumer, we can avoid the rampant price gouging, which is currently the status quo in healthcare. Our main cost drivers are materials and labor. All but one of the parts of this mechanism can be bought wholesale, and the one custom piece can be easily machined. Even though this is a one-time purchase, we are depending on growth to provide profit. The low cost should increase the likelihood of bulk purchases and rapid growth. As for competition, from our prior ARC search, we found there were no modular devices that could be attached to any wheelchair. The only existing devices that employ similar mechanisms are full wheelchairs, like the Grip Freedom Chair, or the typical alternative of electric wheelchairs. Both of these options are exceedingly expensive and are not aimed at rehabilitation. The Grit Chair is mainly marketed as an outdoor and all-terrain wheelchair. In summary, we intend on providing an affordable device that will attach to any wheelchair to reduce joint impingement, repetitive movement injuries, and to increase patient comfortability and increase the rate of rehabilitation. Our target populations are already large and constantly growing. By marketing to nursing homes and physical therapists first, we hope to gain recognition and traction in the market. A highly affordable price compared to similar chairs will drive profits. Thank you for your time.
Students should be co-hosts. You should be able to unmute now.
Hello.
Hey.
There you go.
All right, so who wants to go first?
Really, really interesting idea, guys. Does it exist yet? Do you have one on a wheelchair somewhere that you can play with?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're in the prototyping stages as of now. We haven't completed one as of yet, but we're using BME or biomedical engineering faculty money at Ole Miss to help fund it. And right now we're just waiting on parts, honestly, from McMaster-Carr.
Okay.
Waiting on a check.
What
So
do you?
it sounds like.
Go ahead.
It sounds like most of the parts are things that you can go out and buy. Is that what I understood? And there's just one part that you'd have to figure out manufacturing for.
Yes, ma'am.
How far along are you in the process of figuring out manufacturing for that piece? Do you have a plan for that at all yet?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, there's STLs, which are a file type that can be used by any 3D printer. And all these can be 3D printed either at your home or anywhere else. So that was kind of another main objective, was to have accessibility.
Last question, and I'll pass it to Jason. Have you guys thought about patenting?
Yes, we've been talking about that a lot this year, but there's so much that goes into it. We were kind of waiting until we got a little bit farther along in the process until we looked into that much further.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth it.
Let me ask a question. What is your, I don't think I caught it, or you may have mentioned it, but what's your cost of this aftermarket attachment, and what would be the retail price?
So as far as the prototype goes, we came up with a price of about $200. We're not entirely sure as far as retail price goes. Unfortunately, we are engineers and not business majors, so we weren't able to figure all that out yet. But we ideally would like to keep it below $300. And our logic being that if we buy things wholesale and people buy in bulk, the prices will inevitably decrease for us.
So if it's around $200 or $250, what percentage is that of the cost of the whole wheelchair? I mean, you're talking about maybe something that costs 10% or 15% more than the wheelchair by itself would cost?
Wheelchairs usually cost about double that, but our competition, specifically electric wheelchairs or other types of wheelchairs with attachments, are upwards of thousands of dollars. Just a normal wheelchair will be around $600 to $1,000. So
okay.
Our idea is to have an attachment that's very cheap relative to buying a new chair within an already built-in attachment, and is modular so that we can put it on pretty much any wheelchair.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned being able to 3D print these at home. Do you view that as a potential hurdle to scaling your business? Because once somebody gets that file type, you know, they could post it to Reddit and just kind of do it themselves.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, but I don't know, like there's still the aspect of we have the whole design in our possession. We know how to put it together. You can still 3D print a part and still not have the mindset of actually putting together and bracing everything to the wheelchair, right? So I mean that is an aspect. And also, I mean, I would be all right if some people did 3D print and have these for themselves, you know, so it's accessible to anybody who needs it.
Good answer.
How will you guys deal with service and repairs? You know, inevitably parts break. Have you thought about that?
Our idea was, as I mentioned, we would have a website and ideally retail outlets, as well as representatives going around. So if something does break, there are relatively few moving parts on this that could break, the chain being the main problem, or either maybe a bracket. So it's a fairly simple device. Like I said, it's like a bicycle. Honestly, less complicated. So we would we would have those representatives either go out and give them the piece, or they could just buy the piece themselves from the website or the retail store, or bring it into the retail store and we can fix it.
One of your marketing channels you mentioned would be nursing homes. I do some investing in senior living facilities and nursing homes and things like that. And my experience has been that most of in the nursing homes, the people that use wheelchairs on a regular basis own those wheelchairs themselves. They're not wheelchairs that are owned by the nursing home and then let the patients use them. So, you know, if you're marketing through a nursing home, you're going to actually have to be pitching it to the individual users, not the owners of the nursing homes.
Okay. So this idea originally came from my mother, who's director of nursing at a elderly rehab facility. And she was saying at their facility, they do provide the wheelchairs. I'm not doubting what you're saying, but I wonder if there's not some way to get the facility to purchase the attachment, since it is so relatively cheap, to attach to the wheelchair for the long-term benefits of the residents.
So you're saying that the institution or the long-term nursing facility would actually purchase these and then resell them to the patients that live there, right?
Yes, sir. That's the idea. But there, as I said in the video, I want there to be certain caveats where they aren't getting gouged.
Okay.
Might be a little early.
All right, one more.
I have a question.
Joyce.
Okay, so it sounds like, and I in one part I agree with Mr. Harris about nursing homes. I also agree with your mom that if one person in a nursing home or an assisted living facility has one, the others are going to want to get them. But I don't think you really have any idea about ownership or how people are getting wheelchairs, because a lot of it's coming through Medicare and durable medical equipment facilities. And so you got that issue. You've got the issue about whether or not you should be showing the detail that you showed if you aren't looking for a patent already, whether you're hurting your ability to get a patent. And then you've got this issue about the financial viability, and you've got such great ideas. So how are y'all going to get the answers to those areas that are outside your expertise? How are you going to do it?
Certainly bringing in other people who know much more about that than we do. I think that's really the only option, right? Consultants. Yeah, so we were thinking consultants. Even the design itself, there are things that we would like to tweak and add to it, but we personally aren't mechanical engineers, so we don't have as much experience with the design software. as someone who's a mechanical engineer may. So I think the same logic still applies, but as far as what you're talking about with insurance and FDA type things, so we did do some research into the FDA requirements, and since it is an aftermarket attachment, it is not required for clearance through the FDA. So it wouldn't be tied in with all of the insurance hubbub, shall we say, ideally. That, at least that's as far as we're aware.
All right, let me pause it there. Fair answer, sir. All right, thank you guys. We're going to move on to at-home experiences.
Hi, I'm Claire and this is Taylor, and our business is At Home Experiences. Our company is a private event planning company that helps you plan and execute smaller events to be thrown in the comfort of your own home. We're currently still in the conceptual phase of planning, but so far we've talked to 80 people, including potential customers, as well as potential suppliers and partners.
So the problem that we're trying to solve is that a lot of people want to host parties at their home, but they either don't know how to do it or they don't have the resources to be able to do it. Everybody's tried to host some sort of event or plan some sort of event and has dealt with the stress that comes along with it, and nobody likes dealing with that. So we try to have the connections to take the stress of planning and researching off of your shoulders.
So our primary market size, we're targeting middle-aged couples and college-aged young adults. We think that the bigger market will favor cities that are above average income compared to the state level. And so our early adopters are going to be people who have attempted to host events before and realize that they don't have the necessary resources or knowledge to create the event that they want. And so we've interviewed 80 potential customers and partners to validate these hypotheses.
So we're the only two team members. Claire's an entrepreneurship major and is going to graduate in August. I'm management and entrepreneurship. I'm going to graduate in May. So Claire works with an event planner in Oxford and has experience with this type of work. And she has a lot of connections and resources with that job that give us the way to get with potential customers and also key partners. We've actually worked on a similar project to this in Entrepreneurship 436, which was like the business modeling class. And we decided to do another project together. We've both taken a lot of entrepreneurship classes. So we think that we have a good foundation of where to start everything.
So our solution to this problem is that we're going to be in charge of planning your event as well as being present the day of your event to ensure everything runs smoothly and is up to your expectations. We can help you with invitations, finding the perfect chef or catered food. We'll provide the alcohol, decorations to fit the different themes of the occasions, floral arrangements, glassware, dishware, silverware, and linens if necessary, as well as staff to work your event.
So these are the packages that we have right now, tentatively. We have like 3 different tiers. The cheapest is the cheese and wine, and that's going to go more towards the college age people. The catered dinner, that's the mid-tier for price, and then sit-down dinner, where a private chef would actually come and cook in your own home or cook right before and bring it to you, and it's very customizable. And we are looking to offer different packages primarily to different sort of markets. We're still trying to figure out exactly what prices to use, and that's what we're talking about in a lot of our interviews right now.
So with our business model canvas, we really want to iterate that our value proposition. We want to have a customizable service so you can have an at-home experience. You can choose between private chef or catered food. And we just want to handle all the stress and take away the time that you would put into this so you can just have a fun day with your guests and enjoy your time rather than stressing about it.
So our go-to-market plan is we first want to use social media to get the initial customers and the early adopters. And then we think that in a place like Oxford, word of mouth will be really effective. People will talk about, oh, I hosted a party through this service and they planned everything and they did a great job. And then we think that in a place like Oxford, that would work really well. And after a certain point in areas like this where we've established ourselves, we may not have to do as much advertising on our own. Some key partnerships that we think we're going to need are caterers, private chefs, florists, and rental companies. and we will continue to work with them throughout the company's lifespan.
So our competition is going to be event planners in the Oxford area. And so we feel like we can solve this problem better than they can because they're more focused on weddings and bigger events, but we want to do more of an intimate, smaller setting. And that's not what these companies are currently focused on in Oxford. So we think that we might have a big advantage.
Financials, so we will always be in the green from the very get-go because customers pay up front and we don't have to produce anything and have an initial cost for that. And we try to have at least 20% of the payment put back into the business to help us grow.
So with our milestones, we've interviewed 80 potential customers, and we've formed relationships with people around Oxford that are going to be willing to help and work with us. And we're still in the beginning phases of our idea, so we're continuing to figure out how to change our idea to solve this problem. And although we're still adapting, we can begin providing these services in the near future because we have all the resources.
So in summary, we want to take away the stress from the customer in planning this event, and we want to give them more time to relax and enjoy their own event that they're hosting instead of having to worry about managing all the planning and putting out fires as they occur during the event. And we want to focus on smaller events because we think that that's a niche market that has not been particularly reached yet, and there won't be a lot of competition. Thank you very much.
Rich, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
So have y'all, is Main Event still working there in Oxford? That's City Groceries Group.
So they're more of a catering company, correct?
They do exactly what you're talking about, as well as
Okay.
larger events.
Okay, I'm not actually sure about that. I think what I've been on their website, it looked more that they did catering rather than throwing events, but I guess they do offer that, so I'm not sure.
So how many event planners do you think there are in Oxford? I mean, I think it's a really crowded market.
I don't know about that. I work with one actually, Ellen Thomas, and I think so. One Fine Day events, they stopped doing them too. So she's really the main one right now. There might be a few other smaller ones, but I think there's only a handful of event planners in Oxford at the moment.
So
What do you- for
why did y'all
you're
say
talking-
anything about Southern Foodways Alliance? I'm sorry,
that?
Mr. Harris. You didn't address Southern Foodways Alliance at all. That seems like the biggest factor that's there in Oxford, a huge factor.
Is that a company? I'm sorry. I don't.
That's okay.
I don't know what that is.
Okay, that's a problem. Okay, thanks.
All right, Mr. Harris, because we are, I mean.
All right, my question was, you've been talking about Oxford over and over again, and what are your plans for expansion? Oxford is not that large of a market for, I mean, people are not throwing these parties left and right. It seems to me like if you're going to have a successful company, you need to be looking at more markets and larger markets.
Yeah, so I'm from Austin, and I've talked to a lot of the people I was interviewing as customers. I talked to a lot of people from there, and I think there's definitely a bigger market. We just thought that since we're in Oxford right now for the time being, we thought this would be a good place to start and kind of get things going and practice doing what we want to do, and then eventually expanding to maybe like have different cities. So we'd have people in different places kind of running it. So it's like the name kind of follows it, and then we can open up different branches almost into different cities.
Have you guys done any research on how many events like this you think you could plan in say in a given month?
Yes, so these events are pretty, for what we're looking at, it'd probably be between like 10 to 20 people, probably not more than that, just because it isn't a home. So we could probably do, I mean, a few a week depending, because as long as the caterers are free and booked in advance for those nights or the private chef, it's not that hard to get the rental companies involved too and kind of set everything up, you know? So we'd be able to do a decent amount, like 2 a week at least.
One thing that might be interesting for you guys to do is survey some of those caterers and rental companies and everything that you have relationships with in the city, and find out from them if they've had interest in these kinds of events? I'm sure they probably have.
Yeah, and they've
get some.
definitely,
Go ahead.
they've done things like that too. So we did talk to a good amount of caterers and different people around Oxford that do that kind of thing. And they kind of told us how it works and how the alcohol works with that, because they can provide the alcohol for these things too. So we kind of talked to them. They do things similar to this. And I know the wedding planner that I work with has done things like this in Oxford, but it's just not her main focus. So there is a market for it. It's just not really what wedding planners want to do, because they're more, you know, events of 100 to 300 people versus the smaller scale.
I actually do, as your target market, middle-aged woman, I actually do think that there probably is a market for something like this. I think the trick is going to be getting in front of people like me. What is your main plan for doing that? What do you think how are you going to get in front of your clients?
I mean, I think our main selling point is that people who want to throw these kind of events, or for instance, like baby showers, engagement parties, they don't really know the first thing about throwing them, or like where to get the food or alcohol or decorations or any of that. So we kind of like have that connection and work as a middleman and be able to connect them to, if you want this kind of menu, this is the caterer you should talk to. If you want to do this kind of thing, you need to talk to the chef, or like whatever rental companies. There's a few in Oxford, and it's like, if you want this kind of direct like decorations, this is who you should talk to. So it's easier for them, rather than having to do all the research themselves, kind of having us to lead the way and show them, so they don't have to stress about it and worry about it. Because a lot of people, that's not their biggest thing that they can do. They're not very gifted in throwing these kind of things, so they wouldn't really know the first thing about it.
All right, I'm gonna have to stop it there. Thank you guys very much. So I'm gonna move, we're gonna move the students out, and then the judges are gonna deliberate. So there, okay, good. All right, so students, you should be getting an invite to go to a room, and I need you to accept and go to that room. Okay, so yeah, now it's just the judges. Let me pause the